The suspenseful hook, the intergalactic station, was alive with sound and movement. Bright lights covered the tall glass walls, and thousands of travelers walked from one gate to another. Ships came and went, carrying people from 100 different worlds. In this huge place, one alien girl walked alone, her silver cloak brushing against the metal floor. Her name was Lyra. She looked calm on the outside, but her heart was not calm at all. Her hand kept touching the glowing crystal on her wrist. It was not just jewelry. It was the most important thing in her life, her soulmate indicator. Every child on her planet received one when they came of age. It was said to shine only when the person touched their true soulmate. For most, it stayed silent for years until destiny revealed the one. But Lyra's crystal had never reacted. She had started to believe it never would. As she moved through the crowd, she reminded herself why she had come here. She was only passing through. She had no time for games, no time for distractions. But the crystal pulsed softly like a heartbeat, as if it was trying to warn her. Lyra frowned. That had never happened before. Something was wrong. Just then it happened. A figure stepped out of the crowd. A young human man dressed in travel clothes holding a small bag. He was not watching where he was going. He turned too quickly, and before either of them could stop, they collided. Lyra gasped as her hand pressed against his arm. For the smallest second, skin touched skin. The crowd continued to move around them, but Lyra froze in place. Her crystal exploded with light. The dull glow turned into a wild storm of color. The wristband shook with energy, beams of blue and gold bursting out. It pulsed so strong that nearby people stopped to look. Some even covered their eyes from the brightness. Lyra's jaw dropped open. She could not move. She could not breathe. It was impossible. Her mind screamed a single thought: no, not with him. Not with a human. The young man looked just as shocked. His eyes widened as the glow reflected on his face. What is that?" he asked, taking a step back. Lyra could not answer. Her lips trembled. The stories she had grown up with filled her head. The soulmate indicator never lied. It never made mistakes. But humans were supposed to be outsiders, simple creatures from a young planet. How could destiny connect her to one of them? The crowd started whispering. People pointed at the light. Some muttered words in alien languages. A group of merchants backed away, afraid. The air around them turned heavy with tension. Lyra finally found her voice. This cannot be," she whispered, though her voice shook. She pulled her hand back as if his skin burned. But the crystal did not calm down. Instead, it pulsed faster, brighter, like it was celebrating the contact. The human raised his hands. "Hey, I didn't mean anything. I just bumped into you. I don't know what's going on." His voice was nervous, but his eyes showed real confusion. He clearly had no idea what this meant. Lyra's heart raced. Her world's laws were clear. If an alien's crystal ever linked with another species, it was forbidden. It was not supposed to happen. And if it did, the punishment was exile, or worse. She stepped back quickly, her cloak whipping around her. "Stay away from me," she said, though her own voice betrayed fear more than anger. She turned and moved fast through the crowd, but the human hesitated, then followed. "Wait, I don't understand." "You dropped this." He held up a small metal tag that had fallen from her cloak when they collided. Lyra glanced back for only a second, and that second was enough for her to see it. The crystal still pulsed when he was near, like a magnet pulling toward him. She felt the strange warmth inside her chest, a heat that was both frightening and comforting. It made no sense, yet it was undeniable. She spun back around and pushed forward through the crowd, trying to escape. But her thoughts were in chaos. Why him? Why here? Why now? Every step she took, the whispers grew louder. Some travelers laughed nervously. Others looked at her with fear. And somewhere deeper in the station, hidden eyes were watching. The light from her wrist had caught the attention of the wrong people. The human, Ethan, though Lyra did not know his name yet, was still chasing after her. His footsteps echoed against the metal floor. He called again, "Wait, please. I just want to give this back." Lyra's breathing was sharp. She reached a quieter hall, the voices of the crowd fading behind her, but even here the crystal still glowed. She lifted her wrist, staring at it with wide eyes. Never in her life had she seen it behave like this. It was alive, wild, demanding. She pressed her hand against it as if trying to force the light down. But nothing worked. The crystal had chosen, and that choice was final. Behind her, Ethan slowed his steps. He didn't know the rules of her people. He didn't know what the glowing crystal meant. But something inside told him this moment was important, more than just an accident. He looked at the alien girl's trembling shoulders and whispered, almost to himself, "Why do I feel like we were meant to meet?" The story of Lyra and Ethan had only just begun, but already the universe had changed forever. Confusion and denial, Lyra's footsteps echoed as she hurried down the narrow passage of the intergalactic station. Her cloak fluttered behind her, and her heart pounded faster than her steps. The crystal on her wrist refused to calm. It glowed with the same furious light, pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. She clenched her teeth. No, this is wrong. It has to be wrong. Behind her, the sound of human footsteps followed. The boy, Ethan, was not giving up. His voice carried through the hall. "Wait! I don't know what happened back there, but you can't just run away." Lyra spun around suddenly, her eyes blazing with panic. The glow of the crystal lit up her pale face. "Stay away from me," she snapped. Her voice was sharp, but it trembled at the edges. Ethan froze in place. He raised both hands, showing he meant no harm. His brown eyes were wide, filled with confusion. "I'm not trying to hurt you. He held up the small tag she had dropped. "I think this belongs to you." Lyra stared at the tag, then at him. Her chest rose and fell quickly. For a moment she almost stepped forward to take it. But the crystal pulsed harder, brighter, as if it wanted her to touch him again. That thought sent fear like ice through her veins. She shook her head violently. "No, this cannot be. You're human. My people do not." "It's impossible," Ethan frowned. "Impossible? Because I'm human? What does that even mean? Look, whatever this glowing thing is, it reacted when you touched me, right? So doesn't that mean something?" Lyra's breath caught in her throat. He had spoken the truth, but she refused to accept it. Her mind screamed against the idea. A human cannot be chosen. The bond is forbidden. If the elders knew, if anyone knew. She stepped back again, pressing herself against the wall. Her voice was low, almost broken. "You don't understand. That light is not a trick. It's not just magic or science, it means destiny." Ethan tilted his head, trying to process her words. "Destiny," he whispered. "Yes," Lyra hissed. Her hands shook as she gripped the glowing crystal. "The one it chooses is meant to be your other half. Your soulmate." Ethan's jaw fell open. He stared at her in disbelief. "Soulmate? Are you serious?" Lyra's eyes burned with fear. "Yes. And it chose you." The words hung in the air like thunder. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the station's engines far below. Finally, Ethan gave a nervous laugh, trying to break the tension. "Okay, wait. This has to be some kind of mistake. I mean, I'm just a guy from Earth. I'm no one special. You don't even know me." Lyra's grip on her wrist tightened until her knuckles turned pale. "There are no mistakes," she whispered. "The crystal never lies." Ethan blinked. "Then why do you look like you're about to cry?" Lyra's throat tightened. She looked away, unable to meet his eyes. "Because if it is true, then both of us are in danger." Before Ethan could ask more, a low mechanical sound came from the end of the corridor. Both of them turned their heads sharply. In the distance, shadows moved. 3 tall figures, their armor glowing faintly in the dim light. Enforcers. Lyra's stomach dropped. No, not here. Not so soon. The enforcers were guardians of her people's law. And if they had seen the crystal glow for a human, they would not show mercy. Ethan noticed the fear in her eyes. "Who are they?" Lyra stepped forward quickly, her cloak brushing his arm. Her voice was urgent, sharp. "Listen to me. You must leave now. Go back to your world. Forget this ever happened." Ethan frowned. "And leave you here with whatever those things are?" "Not a chance." Lyra's anger flared. "You don't understand. If they catch us together, you'll be taken. Maybe worse. Humans are not supposed to be chosen. To them, you are a threat." Ethan's heart hammered in his chest, but something inside him refused to step back. "Then why is your crystal saying otherwise? Why is it telling us we're meant to be connected?" Lyra stared at him, torn between fear and something deeper she could not name. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The enforcer's footsteps grew louder, the sound of metal striking metal. The corridor filled with their shadows. Ethan leaned closer, whispering, "You can run from me if you want, but can you really run from what that thing on your wrist is telling you?" Her crystal glowed so brightly now that it painted their faces with light. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She wanted to deny it, to scream that it was wrong, but the warmth inside her would not vanish. She clenched her fists, trembling. "I don't want this," she whispered. She clenched her fists, trembling. "I don't want this," she whispered, and yet, deep inside, she knew she was lying to herself. The enforcers drew nearer. Their voices in alien tongue echoed coldly through the air. Lyra had only seconds to choose. Would she keep denying the bond and hand Ethan over to save herself, or would she defy everything she had been taught, and run with him into the unknown? The glow from her crystal pulsed like a heartbeat, forcing her to face the truth she wanted to escape. Destiny had found her, and it refused to let go. Curiosity and hidden danger. The corridor shook with the heavy footsteps of the enforcers. Their tall, armored shadows stretched across the walls, moving closer with every second. Lyra's blood turned cold. She knew what happened to those caught breaking the laws of her people, and right now just standing beside this human boy already made her guilty. Ethan glanced at the glowing crystal on her wrist, then at the advancing figures. His voice was low but steady. "If they're after me, then let's move. Standing here isn't going to help." Lyra's lips parted, torn between fear and denial. She wanted to push him away, to scream at him to run, but something stronger kept her frozen, the crystal pulsing like a living heart, telling her she wasn't meant to let him go. The enforcers raised their weapons, glowing spears of energy that hissed with power. A metallic voice boomed, "Alien female, surrender the human. The bond is forbidden." Ethan's stomach tightened. He didn't understand everything, but one thing was clear. These armored giants weren't going to talk politely. They would take him by force. Before he could think further, Lyra grabbed his wrist. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but her eyes burned with fire. "This way," she whispered, pulling him down a side passage. Ethan didn't argue. They ran. The enforcers roared commands behind them, their heavy boots thundering across the floor. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, smashing into the walls and leaving black scorch marks. The station lights flickered. Lyra pulled Ethan through a maze of service tunnels, her cloak streaming behind her. Every turn seemed darker, narrower, more dangerous. But the crystal never dimmed, it kept glowing fiercely as if guiding them. Ethan gasped for breath, struggling to keep up. You're seriously fast," he panted. Lyra shot him a sharp look. "Be quiet. They're tracking us." Ethan glanced back. Sure enough, shadows followed, relentless. His chest tightened with fear. "Why are they so desperate to catch me? I don't even know you." Lyra's voice broke with anger and panic. "Because you were never supposed to exist in my destiny, and if the bond is real, it threatens everything they believe in." Her words chilled Ethan. A part of him wanted to stop running, to demand answers, but the fire in her voice told him the truth. This wasn't just about him or her. It was bigger, something dangerous, something ancient. They burst into a vast chamber filled with cargo containers stacked like towers. Shadows loomed tall, and the air was thick with smoke and machine oil. Lyra pulled Ethan behind one of the containers, pressing him close against the metal. For a moment, silence. Only the sound of their breathing. Lyra leaned her head back, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She closed her eyes, gripping her glowing crystal. This cannot be happening. Not with a human. Not now. Ethan stared at her, his voice softer now. "Maybe you don't want it to happen, but what if it's not about what we want?" Lyra's eyes snapped open. She glared at him, but the fire in her anger wasn't as strong anymore. Her lips trembled. "You don't understand. My people's laws are absolute. If they discover this bond, they'll see you as a threat, and they'll destroy you." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then what about you?" Lyra looked away. Her silence was louder than words. A sound cut through the air, metal grinding against metal. Both of them turned their heads slowly. From the shadows of the cargo bay, red lights glowed. The enforcers had arrived. Ethan whispered urgently, "We can't keep running forever." "What's the plan?" Lyra clenched her fists. For the first time, she didn't know. She had always trusted the crystal to guide her to the right path. But now it had brought her to danger, to fear, to this impossible human boy. The enforcers stepped into the chamber, their glowing spears raised. Their leader's voice echoed coldly. "Surrender, Lyra. You cannot hide from destiny's law." Ethan leaned closer, whispering, "Funny. They keep saying destiny. Isn't that what your crystal is all about?" The words cut into Lyra's heart like a blade. She wanted to deny him, to shut him out. But the glow on her wrist was undeniable. It pulsed brighter the closer Ethan was. The more she resisted, the stronger it shone. The enforcers spread out, their heavy armor clanking. One of them aimed his spear toward the containers. A warning blast of energy sizzled, striking close. Sparks rained down. Lyra's breath caught. Her people had taught her that destiny was a gift, a guide. But now destiny had chosen a path that could ruin her life. Ethan's voice was steady, almost defiant. "If we're already in danger, then maybe we should stop running. Maybe we should fight." Lyra turned to him, shocked. "Fight? Against them? You're just human. You don't even know how to hold a plasma blade." Ethan's lips curved into a nervous but determined smile. "Then teach me. Or at least, don't let me die without trying." For a moment, Lyra stared at him. The boy's courage burned brighter than the fear in her chest. Against all reason, she felt the warmth of the bond pushing her forward. The enforcers advanced. Their leader raised his weapon. "This is your last warning. Hand over the human." The crystal on Lyra's wrist flared, sending light across the chamber. Lyra's eyes hardened. For the first time, she stopped running. She stepped forward, pulling Ethan beside her. Her voice rang with steel. "No, if destiny chose him, then I will protect him." The glow surged, painting the walls in gold and blue fire. The enforcers paused for half a second, startled by the intensity. And in that heartbeat of hesitation, Lyra made her choice. This was no longer just about denial. It was about survival. And destiny had just declared war. Revelation of the Soulmate law. The chamber burned with the light of Lyra's crystal. Golden blue waves rolled across the cargo bay, bouncing off metal walls and painting the enforcers' armor in fire. For a brief moment, everything stopped. The enforcers, Ethan, even Lyra herself, frozen in the impossible glow of destiny. The leader of the enforcers stepped forward, his armor groaning with each move. His face was hidden behind a dark mask, but his voice carried the weight of law. "You know the rules, Lyra of the Athari. The Soulmate indicator cannot choose a human. If it does, the bond must be destroyed. Hand him over." Lyra's blood turned to ice. Every word was like a knife cutting into her chest. The law was absolute. She had grown up hearing the tales. If the crystal ever connected with a non-Athari, it meant disaster. Not because the bond was false, but because it was too powerful. Ethan's brow furrowed. He stepped closer to Lyra, lowering his voice. "They want to destroy me. Just because of that glowing thing?" Lyra swallowed hard. Her eyes locked on the enforcers, but her words were for Ethan. Not just because of the glow, because of what it means. The bond between soulmates is stronger than anything. Stronger than war, stronger than death. If two from different worlds are bound, it could change everything. "My people fear that." Ethan's heart thudded. "Change everything? That sounds good, not bad." Lyra's voice cracked, raw with pain. "To you, maybe. To them it means chaos. If humans and Aetheri can connect on this level, the old laws break. The Council loses control, and the Council fears losing control more than anything." The enforcer leader raised his spear, its energy tip humming with deadly heat. "Enough stalling. This is your final warning. Deny the bond or face punishment." Ethan clenched his fists, his fear mixing with anger. He whispered, "They're giving you a choice. Me or them." Lyra's hand trembled as she pressed it against the crystal. It burned under her touch, alive, pulsing like a second heart. She had always believed in destiny, always trusted the crystal's truth. But never had she imagined destiny would put her in this position, forced to choose between her people's law and the human boy who now stood beside her. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. I cannot deny the bond." The enforcers froze. The leader tilted his head. "Then you accept exile?" Gasps echoed from the shadows. Other travelers hiding in the cargo bay whispered in fear. To accept exile was the same as death, cut off from her people, hunted, dishonored forever. Ethan stared at her in shock. "Exile? Just for me?" Lyra finally turned to him. Her eyes glistened with something deeper than fear. "Not just for you, for us. The moment I touched you, my life was no longer my own." Ethan's chest tightened. He had known her for only hours, yet her words struck like thunder. He didn't understand this bond, but he felt it too. The strange pull, the warmth that had bloomed when their hands touched. It scared him, but it also gave him strength. The enforcer leader took a heavy step forward. "Then so be it. Both of you are condemned. The bond will not spread. We will end it here." Lyra's crystal pulsed furiously as if defying his words. The glow grew so bright the cargo bay shook, lights flickering wildly. And then, an old voice echoed through the chamber. "Do you truly think you can end destiny with weapons?" Everyone turned. At the far end of the bay, an elder Ithari stepped into view. His robes shimmered with silver threads and his staff hummed with ancient energy. His presence made even the enforcers step back in hesitation. Lyra's breath caught. "Elder Kale." The elder's eyes, glowing faintly with wisdom, moved from Lyra to Ethan. His gaze lingered, heavy, knowing. "The Council's laws are old, but the crystal is older. There have been whispers of this bond for centuries. A union not between two of the same, but between two worlds." Lyra's heart pounded. She had heard the legends in fragments, stories dismissed as myths, told to frighten children. A prophecy of a bond that could bridge species. She had never believed them. Until now. The enforcer leader's voice grew harsh. "Elder, you risk treason. The Council forbids this union." Kyle lifted his staff, its tip glowing brighter than the enforcer's spear. "The Council forbids what it fears. But destiny does not ask permission." Ethan stared between them, lost yet drawn deeper into the storm. He whispered to Lyra, "So, what does this mean for us?" Lyra's voice trembled as she answered, "It means we are not just soulmates. We are the start of something bigger. And that makes us dangerous." The elder's voice cut through the tension, calm but powerful. "You must choose now, child. Follow the Council's law, or follow the crystal's truth. But know this, once you choose, there is no turning back." Lyra's body shook. Her people's law had been her whole life, but the crystal pulsed with undeniable fire, binding her to Ethan, and when she looked into his eyes, she no longer saw just a human boy. She saw the beginning of a story that could break the stars themselves. The enforcers raised their weapons again, energy crackling through the air. The elder stood ready, his staff glowing like a beacon. Lyra's lips parted. Her choice was clear. She took Ethan's hand, holding it tight. The crystal exploded into light so bright it blinded the room. Her voice rang out strong and unbroken. "I choose him." The chamber shook, energy surging like a storm unleashed. The enforcers staggered back, shields flaring. Ethan's hand burned in hers, but he didn't let go. And in that blinding moment, Lyra realized destiny had chosen war, but it had also chosen love. The chase, the crystal's light finally dimmed, leaving behind trails of gold in the smoky air. The cargo bay was silent for one breath, one fragile second before chaos returned. The enforcers roared as their energy spears lit up again. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The elder, Kale, slammed his staff against the ground, sending out a wave of force that pushed the armored giants back a few steps. "Go," Kale shouted, his voice trembling with power. "The two of you must escape now. The Council will stop at nothing to end you." Lyra's heart leapt to her throat. She had chosen Ethan, and now the entire universe seemed ready to punish her for it. She grabbed his hand and pulled him through the maze of containers. The enforcers recovered quickly, their boots thundering against the floor. Their metallic voices filled the chamber. "Seize them. Do not let the bond survive." Ethan stumbled as Lyra dragged him along, his chest burning with exhaustion. "Do you always run this much?" he gasped. "Only when destiny tries to kill me," Lyra snapped, her eyes scanning for a way out. A spear shot past them, exploding against a wall of crates. The shockwave knocked Ethan off his feet. Lyra spun, pulling him up before the dust settled. Her cloak was torn, her face streaked with sweat, but the fire in her eyes had only grown stronger. "Stay close," she commanded. They darted into a narrow passage between containers. The walls were close, shadows stretching long and dark. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed louder, closer. The enforcers were relentless, machines in armor, chasing without pause, without mercy. Ethan's voice cracked. "We can't outrun them forever. We need a plan." Lyra's eyes flickered with frustration. She hated admitting it, but he was right. Her people's soldiers were trained for pursuit, and she was dragging a human boy with no combat training. Their chances were slim, but then her crystal pulsed again. The glow was not wild this time, it was sharp, steady, pointing toward something. Lyra's gaze followed the light and she spotted it, a maintenance hatch high above the bay. "There," she pointed. "If we reach that hatch, we can get into the station service tunnels. Ethan looked up at the hatch, then at the sheer wall of stacked crates. That's high. Lyra gave him a sharp look. Then climb. Before he could argue, she was already scaling the metal containers, her movements swift and precise. Ethan cursed under his breath, then followed. His hands burned as he gripped the cold steel, his muscles screaming, but the sound of enforcers below gave him no choice. Blasts of energy struck the crates, shaking the stacks. Sparks rained down again. Ethan almost slipped, but Lyra's hand shot down, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. Their eyes met for a brief second. "Don't let go," she said firmly. "I wasn't planning to," he muttered, forcing himself upward. They reached the top, hearts pounding. Lyra smashed the hatch's lock with her crystal, which flared like a blade of light. The hatch opened with a hiss. She pushed Ethan inside first, then crawled in after him. The service tunnel was dark, narrow, and filled with the hum of machinery. They crawled fast, the sound of the enforcers fading behind them, but not disappearing. For a moment, silence wrapped around them, broken only by their breathing. Ethan lay on his back, staring at the glowing crystal. His voice was soft now, almost reverent. "That thing, it saved us." Lyra's eyes softened, but only for a second. "No, it cursed us. Every time it glows, it draws us deeper into danger." Ethan sat up, his face lit by the faint light. "Or maybe it's trying to guide us. Did you ever think of that? Maybe destiny isn't trying to kill you. Maybe it's trying to protect you?" Lyra wanted to argue, but the words caught in her throat. For so long she had believed the crystal was only a burden, but now with Ethan beside her it felt different, alive in a way she had never felt before. Before she could answer, a metallic crash shook the tunnel. The enforcers had found another way in. Their armored hands ripped open a vent at the far end, their glowing eyes scanning the darkness. "They're here," Ethan whispered. Lyra grabbed his hand again. "Then we keep moving, no matter what." They crawled faster, twisting through the tunnel until they reached another hatch. Lyra kicked it open and they tumbled out into a docking bay. The bay was chaos. Ships roared, cargo moved, alarms blared. The enforcers burst through behind them, weapons raised. Travelers screamed and scattered. Ethan's chest heaved as he looked around. "Where do we go now?" Lyra's eyes locked on a small freighter prepping for departure. Its engines glowed, its ramp still down. The crystal pulsed toward it almost as if it had chosen the path for them. "There," she said. Without hesitation, she pulled Ethan and sprinted toward the ship. Energy blasts tore across the bay, striking the floor around them. One shot missed Ethan by inches, heat searing his face. They leapt onto the ramp just as the ship's engines roared to life. A mechanic shouted in protest, but Lyra raised her glowing crystal, the light silencing him. The ramp closed, sealing them inside. The ship lifted off, breaking free from the docking clamps. Through a small window, Ethan saw the enforcers shrinking below, their glowing spears raised in fury. He leaned back against the wall, gasping for air. "We actually made it." Lyra stood beside him, her crystal still glowing, her expression unreadable. "No," she whispered. "This is only the beginning. The council won't stop. They'll hunt us across every star." Ethan met her eyes, his fear mixing with something else, something stronger. "Then let them try. If destiny wants us together, maybe it's stronger than them." For the first time, Lyra almost believed it. Almost. The ship sped into the void, leaving the enforcers behind. But not the danger. The chase had only begun. Bond tested. The freighter rattled as it broke through the station's orbit, engines roaring against the pull of gravity. The stars outside stretched into silver lines, and then silence. The ship had entered jump space. For a moment, there was no sound except the quiet hum of the engines. Ethan slumped against the wall, chest rising and falling. His hands shook from exhaustion, but his eyes were fixed on Lyra. She stood near the small viewport, her silver cloak torn, her face pale in the glow of her crystal. The light had softened now, but it never went dark. For several long breaths, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavier than the chase itself. Finally, Ethan broke it. His voice was low, uncertain. "So, what happens now? Do we just keep running forever?" Lyra didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the stars, her jaw tight. Inside, her mind was a storm. She had chosen him in front of the enforcers. She had defied the council, and now, she didn't know what future was left. At last she spoke, her voice steady but cold. "We run because the moment we stop, they will find us. And when they do, They will kill you first. Ethan winced at the bluntness of her words. He forced a weak smile. Comforting. Lyra turned, her eyes sharp. Do not joke. This is not a game, human. You are alive only because I dragged you out of there. Her words cut, but Ethan refused to back down. Dragged me out? You think I didn't fight too? I could have run the other way, but I didn't. I stayed with you. Lyra stepped closer, anger flickering across her face. You don't understand. Staying with me is not bravery. It's a death sentence. The crystal pulsed between them, glowing stronger as if mocking her words. Ethan's eyes dropped to it. His voice softened. Then why does that thing keep pulling us together? If being near me means death, why won't it let go? Lyra's throat tightened. She hated how his words made sense. She hated even more how the warmth inside her chest answered before her mind could deny it. She turned away sharply. Because destiny is cruel, the room fell silent again. Ethan stared at her back, torn between fear and fascination. Every instinct told him to leave, to find a way back to Earth and forget all of this. But something deeper kept him rooted. It wasn't just the crystal, it was her. The fire in her eyes, the way she risked everything to protect him, even when she didn't want to admit it. A sudden bang shook the freighter. Both of them snapped their heads up. Red warning lights flashed across the cabin. The ship's pilot, a gruff alien with scaled skin, shouted from the cockpit. Unregistered pursuit detected. Aetheri patrol ship on our tail. Lyra's heart froze. They found us already. Ethan cursed under his breath. You've got to be kidding me. The pilot worked the controls furiously. I can't outfly them in this freighter. If they lock on, we're done. Lyra rushed forward, her crystal glowing fiercely again. She placed it against the freighter's navigation panel. The systems flickered, sparks flying as if the crystal's power was forcing them to obey. The pilot shouted, What are you doing? You'll overload the drive. Lyra's voice was sharp. Trust me. Just hold steady. The ship lurched violently as the jump engines strained. Outside, the patrol ship drew closer, its weapons glowing with deadly heat. Ethan grabbed the wall for balance, staring at Lyra. Her face twisted in pain, her crystal burning against the controls. He saw sweat bead on her forehead, her body trembling under the effort. Lyra, stop, he shouted. You're going to kill yourself. She shook her head violently. Better me than you. Ethan's chest tightened. He couldn't stand it, the way she was ready to sacrifice herself. He rushed forward, grabbing her wrist. The moment his skin touched hers, the crystal exploded in light again. The freighter's engines screamed. The ship shot forward with impossible speed, tearing through jump space in a blinding flash. The pursuing patrol ship was left behind, swallowed by the void. Silence fell once more. The warning lights died down. The freighter floated quietly in the endless stars. Lyra collapsed to her knees, her breathing ragged. Ethan knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. Hey, don't do that again. Don't burn yourself out for me. Her eyes opened slowly, her voice weak but sharp. You don't understand. If you die, the bond dies with you. And if the bond dies, the council wins. Ethan froze. His grip on her tightened. So that's what this is about? Keeping me alive because of some prophecy? Lyra's eyes glistened. She shook her head. No, not just the prophecy. Not just destiny. Something else. Her voice faltered. She looked at him, really looked, and for a second her walls cracked. When I touched you, I felt something I have never felt before. Not duty, not law. Something real. Ethan's heart pounded. For once he had no clever reply. Only silence. But the silence was broken by the freighter's pilot shouting from the cockpit again. Don't celebrate yet. That jump burned out the drive. We're stranded until I can repair it. And if the patrol ships trace our trail... His voice trailed off, the meaning clear. Ethan looked back at Lyra. She was still trembling, still pale, but her eyes burned with the same fire as before. The bond between them had been tested. It had nearly broken under fear, anger, and sacrifice, but it hadn't. If anything, it was stronger now, and somewhere out in the dark, the council was already coming. The final twist, the freighter floated in silence. Its engines dead, its lights flickering weakly. Outside the viewport stretched an endless ocean of stars, cold and indifferent. Inside, tension filled the air like a storm waiting to break. Lyra sat on the floor, her back against the wall, her crystal glowing faint but steady. Sweat still clung to her forehead from forcing the jump. She looked exhausted. but her eyes never left Ethan. Ethan paced the small cabin, his hands running through his hair. "We're stranded. You heard the pilot. We can't move until the engines are fixed. And if your people find us before then..." He trailed off, shaking his head. Lyra's voice was low but firm. "They will find us. It is only a matter of time." Ethan stopped pacing. His chest tightened. "Then what? We just wait for death?" The crystal pulsed, almost as if answering him. Lyra looked down at it, her face torn between fear and resolve. "No, not death. Something else. The bond has not finished its purpose yet." Before Ethan could ask, alarms blared across the freighter. Red light bathed the cabin. The pilot shouted from the cockpit, "Incoming vessel! Large armed and locking on us!" Ethan rushed to the viewport. A massive ship emerged from the shadows of space, sleek black metal glowing with crimson lights. Its size dwarfed the freighter, and its weapons hummed with deadly power. Lyra's blood ran cold. She recognized the design instantly. The Council's judgment ship. Her voice was a whisper of dread. The pilot's scales paled. "We can't fight them. We can't even run." The freighter shuddered as a tractor beam latched onto it, pulling it toward the judgment ship's docking bay. There was no escape. Ethan turned to Lyra, panic in his eyes. "What do we do?" Lyra's gaze hardened. She rose slowly, her crystal blazing brighter with every heartbeat. "We face them. Together." Moments later, the freighter was swallowed into the massive ship. Metal doors closed behind them, sealing their fate. The docking bay was silent as Lyra and Ethan stepped out, surrounded by armored enforcers. Energy spears aimed at their hearts. At the far end of the bay stood the Council's High Commander, his black cloak flowing, his mask etched with silver lines of authority. His voice was cold, final. "Lyra of the Athuri, you have broken the sacred law. You bonded with a human. You defied exile. You will be erased." Ethan stepped forward, fists clenched. "She didn't choose this. Neither of us did. Blame your crystal, not her." The High Commander tilted his head. "The crystal does not lie, which is why you must die, both of you." The enforcers raised their weapons. Lyra's heart hammered. The glow from her crystal surged like a storm. She grabbed Ethan's hand without hesitation. "If one falls," she whispered, "the other falls too." The crystal exploded in light, brighter than it had ever been. The bay shook violently. Energy surged through the enforcers' weapons, shorting them out. Sparks rained across the floor. The High Commander staggered back, shielding his mask. "Impossible." But the light did not stop. It grew, expanding, wrapping around Lyra and Ethan like a living shield. It was no longer just a glow. It was a force, a heartbeat of the universe itself. Ethan gasped as he felt it flood through him. Warmth, strength, and something more. Lyra's thoughts brushing against his own. He could feel her fear, her pain, her hope. They were no longer separate. Lyra's voice echoed inside his mind. This is the truth of the bond. Together, they pushed. The wave of light burst outward, hurling enforcers against the walls. The docking bay floor cracked under the pressure. The entire ship trembled, its systems flickering. The High Commander staggered, his mask cracking. His voice roared above the chaos. "Do you not see? This is why it is forbidden. Your bond is not love, it is a weapon." Lyra's eyes burned with fury. "No, it is not a weapon. It is life." The light wrapped tighter around them, forming wings of energy that stretched high above their heads. For a moment, they looked less like fugitives and more like something new. Symbols of a future neither side wanted to admit. The judgment ship shuddered again, alarms screaming. Systems overloaded, fires sparking across the walls. The pilot of the freighter shouted from behind them, "You'll tear this ship apart!" Ethan's chest heaved. He tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. "Then we don't stop. If this is destiny, we see it through." The High Commander's mask finally shattered, revealing eyes burning with both fear and awe. He fell to his knees as the energy consumed the bay, and then silence. The light collapsed back into the crystal, leaving Lyra and Ethan standing in the smoking ruins of the bay. Enforcers lay unconscious. Fires burned. The judgment ship drifted powerless in space. Ethan looked around in shock. We did this?" Lyra's face was pale, her voice trembling. "No, the bond did." For a long moment, they just stood there, breathing hard, staring at each other. Then a voice came from the comms, Elder Kale. His tone was heavy with both warning and hope. You have awakened something ancient, something the Council feared for centuries. Your bond is no longer just yours. It belongs to the stars. And the stars will never let you rest. Lyra's heart sank. Ethan's fists clenched. The story of a girl cursed by destiny and a boy caught in it had changed. They were no longer fugitives, no longer victims. They were something greater, something the universe itself could not ignore. And as the freighter broke away from the crippled judgment ship, Lyra whispered the words Ethan had been waiting to hear. This is not the end. This is the beginning.